Wisconsin cop arrested for beating and choking a 7-year-old girl. Let's give you the details. Now facing charges, this Wisconsin police officer for allegedly beating a 7-year-old child. 30-year-old Milwaukee police officer Frank Williams has been charged with 1 count of felony physical abuse of a child, 1 count of felony strangulation and suffocation. Now, the child, whose identity is still unknown, is said to be a relative of Williams. That's the ID we have right now. According to Newsweek and WISN, January 17th, MPD Sergeant Zachary Toms responded to the emergency room at the Milwaukee campus of Children's, Wisconsin, for a report of child abuse. According to the criminal complaint, Tom said he met with the 7-year-old victim at the hospital and said he observed 7 or 8 bruises on the girl's thigh, as well as a bruise on her arm. While being interviewed by Toms, the child said that Williams had whooped her with a thin belt the day before because she was supposed to be taking a nap. William then squished her neck. That's the quote, the girl told Toms, saying that she could not breathe. She said this was not the first time Williams had choked her. Again, WISN contributing here to the details. Williams then began to strike the 4-year-old boy with the belt. The girl said it is still unclear how both children got to the hospital. Now, the chief of police, Jeffrey B. Norman, or the Milwaukee Police Department, have yet to make any formal comment on the incident. I think you'd want to say something to the good citizens right away about this. Just right away, something. Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office filed formal charges. And that's something the police department could address. Williams was released from custody Saturday morning. If Williams is convicted on either of the 2 charges he faces, he could face up to 6 years in prison, $10,000 in fines. So this is horrific, Mayor. And here's what sticks out at me. I hate even going into details about someone not taking a nap because it's semantics. None of that matters. None of that is reason to do any of this. And what it tells me, just as a human being, not an expert, not someone who has a PhD, I'm not a psychologist, I haven't conducted therapy, this person likes to beat children. This person likes to just kind of have control over people. This person should not be an officer. Have I gone too far, Mayor?
No, you're spot on. And it says something about this person's mentality and also where we find ourselves in the Milwaukee Police Department. How is it that this level of abuse had to occur before you know this person was capable of this? There is somebody in the community has complained on this person, I promise you, plenty of times. This level of aggression, where someone asked you to stop and you kept going, where someone told you that you were beating a 7-year-old child too much and you continue and then you beat another child, this is not the first time this behavior has been displayed. We also know that because the child said she was beat before and choked the day of. So this is absolutely disgusting behavior, not just individually. We have to look institutionally, and people are going to say, this is a bad cop situation. This is not the police department. It is the police department. And people will say, oh, they fired him as soon as they found out. I'm pushing back on that. I want to see complaints. Why didn't the police chief name or say this person never displayed this behavior? There were no community complaints against this person. Because I know they're out there. And I'm not just speaking, the entire police department in Milwaukee shows up in this manner. There was a report by ACLU naming Milwaukee as one of the worst police departments in this country because of behavior just like this, not towards 7-year-old kids, but towards residents. So we see this pattern and the culture in which this nasty officer exists, and we're left to question, what in the hell does it mean to police in these United States when they continue to behave in manners in uniform and out of uniform that resemble this very behavior?
I, too, want the complaints. And the only reason, if I'm the mayor, that I am not mulling over a demand for Chief Norman's resignation right now is if, and I don't see that reporting, it's his first day on the job. I want the complaints, and I want, as a chief, okay, I want to know what else was known and what should have been known here? You're absolutely right. And if the answer is what you laid out, which is reasonable, and unfortunately, we've had it repeated time and time again in our reporting in all these different jurisdictions. I want to know if there's a jurisdiction where something like this hasn't been reported. But we're done with the cover up here and the nonsense. And the cover up, and that's my word, Mayor, not yours, but I think you alluded to it when you said something to the effect of, well, it's just, fired and then moving on. No, we're not going to move on because these are two young victims of child abuse who suffered greatly. I also want to know, I'm not blaming a school system or a relative. I want to know who else saw things like bruised thighs. And if someone's putting their hands around your little neck, what else is showing up? Do you know how terrifying it is to put all this on the back of a 7-year-old little girl who's confronted in an emergency room and coerced or forced to finally tell it all? Because she doesn't know if you're going to believe her, for one, not right off the bat. And she doesn't know if she's going to have to go right back to see this person who's in big trouble. 7-year-old knows whoever she's naming is in big trouble. I'll give you the last word, Mayor, but I'm disgusted. There's two victims here that we know of, at least. But there's a lot of people who are responsible for this circumstance.
Yeah, I agree 100%. We also got to admit that where's the other adult that was in the room that went back to looking at her phone? This child saw that and recognized that something was wrong with that behavior. She said the other adult in the room, I guess the officer's wife, said that's enough and went right back to texting, went right back to her phone. That's absolutely selling out this child, and both of them should be held accountable. And this is disgusting. You said something that is extremely important. This child probably didn't tell the whole story because that child probably knows she has to go back to this space. For some reason, somehow this man was in authoritative position over this 7-year-old child. And her definition of how he treated her was, he squished my neck. Still so innocent that choking is related to squishing. And people didn't even understand how bad that is. The word squishing with this child now is related to not a balloon, not a toy, but her neck by a grown man.
Not slime, not 7-year-old thing. But there's a lot of abuse situations. I don't know. Usually people who do this to a child, but what's described here tells me that there's another adult in the room that could have potentially done so. If you could say that's enough, you can intervene before this and you can get your kids out of that house. I'm just mortified by this, and I'm mortified about what happens next. Is this 7-year-old going to another relative? An aunt? Grandmother? I don't know. I'm just guessing because, again, these aren't new scenarios. These are things we know that if can't be returned there, or will this child be returned to, say, another parent who perhaps by the letter of the law won't be charged, but was, like the mayor said, in the house here? My heart aches. It aches as a parent, as a human being. This is just so gross. Something that we're going to continue to follow. And let's not forget about Chief Norman and the mayor. I want to know what else was known. And if there's more, I want to know why certain people still have their position. And maybe they shouldn't. And that's not too strong. It's not.